Hey guys, this is Steve Corian from the PTC community, and today I'm going to bring you a wire harness tutorial. And it's pretty simple. I modeled this up just so you guys can see how to do this, and I'll be providing it in my Dropbox as well, so you can download the model and kind of follow along if you want. Alright, so we're going to get started. The first thing I want you to do is create a new assembly, and you can call it wires. And I'm working in millimeters. Now I'm going to save this. I'm going to go back to my main assembly, and I'm going to insert the wire assembly I just created at default position. Now the reason we're doing that is because we're going to use points to create our wires in curves. So putting it at default is we're gonna insert parts into that assembly, which I'm going to do right now. So I want you to open your wires assembly, and I want you to create a new part and call it wire bundle. This is going to be in millimeters as well. Now I'm going to save this, and I'm going to go back to my wires assembly, and I'm going to insert the wire bundle part that we just created, and I'm going to put that at default as well. And I'm going to hit the green check mark and save. Now that you have that done, you go into your main assembly, and I want you to expand your wires assembly, and then I want you to activate your wire bundle. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create some points, and we're going to extrude off of those points in a second after we get our base geometry up. So the whole point of making a wire harness easy is what you do is where you know you have a straight, you can make just a normal extrude your cylinders, and then from there you use points to connect the rest in a spline, and I'm going to show you that. So the first thing I want to do is create my straight bundles down on my P-clips. P-clips hold wires. So I'm going to use extrude, and I'm going to sketch on that face. Now you can do a couple different things. One of the things you can do, which we're going to do it a different way, you could just work on this model here, the assembly, and extrude everything, but it can be a pain with everything else going on. So what I like to do is copy the surfaces that I need, that I'm going to be referencing from this model. So to do that, just left click until you pick up the surface you want to copy, and if you want to grab more surfaces, just hold Control. Okay, now I'm going to hit Control C, Control V, and you'll see it's copying those surfaces, and I'm going to hit the green check mark. Now my wire bundle is still active, so I'm going to come over to this other P-clip, and I'm going to copy those surfaces as well. Control C, Control V, and now I have the two reference surfaces that I want. So I'm going to open my wire bundle, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the extrude tool, and I'm going to sketch on the face of the surface that I copied into this model, and I'm going to use it as a reference as well. So I'm going to use the middle here as a reference, and I'm going to draw my wires how I want them to come out of the connector to my P-clips. Now my wire diameter is 1.8, which is a standard 14 AWG wire for electrical. From here, I'm going to add my remaining wires. Now I know the shape. I know the shape of the wires coming out of the connector. There's 5 wires coming out of the connector, and the way it's oriented is the way I'm going to draw it in my P-clip here. Okay. Turn this to construction. So what I want to do is make these bundles. This is just going to be the straight portion of this. So I'm just kind of estimating. I mean, you can flip back and forth between your two assemblies so you can see that's about right, I think. We'll use that. So I'm going to go back to my wire bundle. So I'm just kind of gauging it. Now on this one, I'm going to do the same thing. Now if you wanted to be fancy, you could go in here. Instead of having to create all this over again, if you do save a copy, when you go to do your extrude, place it on this face. We're going to use the inside circle as the reference. If you go to Sketch, Data from File, File System, you can bring that in. You can bring that sketch that you just saved in and snap it right to the center. And now it has all the dimensions. I don't have to do anything. It's already oriented the way I want. That works for me, so I'm going to accept that. Like I said, right now when I extrude these wires, I'm just kind of guessing where I want the ends to be. It doesn't have to be perfect. Wiring is never going to be perfect. You're just trying to show a representation. So, okay, so this will work. So you can use the values that I was dragging them out if you want, or you can play with them. I'm going to show you what happens being able to regenerate the wires as you move things around. So that's why I create these first. So now that those are created, the next thing that you have to do is create your points. So we're gonna activate our wire bundle part in our assembly, and we're gonna click on over here on the top right. There's a datum point tool. Now I want you to simply select the edge, and in this pull down right here, you should see center, and it'll snap it right to the center. Now if you select another edge, it creates another point at the center because it remembers. So I'm just going to keep picking. I'm going to pick all of the centers of each end of the wire bundle where we're going to be connecting. Okay, so now that you have the wires done, you have to create a point on the part as well. So we're gonna keep snapping creating new points on each center. Just like that. So you can kind of see how it's going to work. We're going to be connecting these points together with a spline, and then you'll be able to drag the spline to adjust your wires bend and the way they look. So we're almost done. I'm going to come over here and finish up with this part over here. Okay. Turn our points on. So this is what it looks like. It looks kind of crazy. But don't worry, it's pretty simple from here on out. You're essentially going to create a curve, and you're going to just basically connect the points together. And we're going to open the wire bundle part, and you'll see all these points. So we're going to do the first one. And if you go, the menu manager comes up and you want it to say through points, so hit done. Now you want it set to spline over here on the right, and you want to change this to single point. Okay, so we're going to take the very bottom one. We're going to select that first point, and we're going to select the point of the end where I want to connect. We're going to hit done, and we're going to hit OK. We forgot one thing. We need an axis. So I'm going to go back to our assembly, our main assembly, and I'm going to go to wire bundle, and I'm going to activate it, and I'm going to copy these cylinders into my wire bundle part so I can create an axis, and you'll see why that's important in a second. Control C, Control V. Let's go back into our wire bundle part here. Okay. So back in my wire bundle part, I'm going to delete this curve. We're going to go through that again. So what I want to do is create an axis in all of these, and these are going to be used as a guide axis for our spline when we start moving them around. So I'm just going to put some axes in here. I like to do them all at once to get them out of the way. It can be more time consuming, but that's how, if you just get them done first, then you don't have to go back and keep recreating them. Okay. Now the cool thing is, when you copy the surfaces from your assembly, from your main assembly, the cool thing is that whenever those move, those surfaces, whether the angle changes or the diameter or whatever, it will adjust these surfaces as long as they're dependent, because you can change these to independent. But when you first copy them, the default is set to dependent. If you set them to independent, then no matter what you do to your top part, your top assembly part that you copied them from, they'll stay where they're at. Okay, so now that we have everything that we need, over here on the right there is something called datum curve, and I want you to select that, and I want you to select, we're going to use through points and done. We're going to use a spline, and we're going to set it to single point, so you got to change that. And like I said, we're going to do this one over, so we're going to select this bottom point, point number 5, and we're going to select point 25 up here. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to hit done. Now if you hit tangency, double click it, left double click it, you will see that it's asking for a start. So we started down here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the axis. Now you want to flip this arrow so that it's going out towards the direction you want the wire to go. So I'm going to hit flip. I'm going to hit OK. And you can see it already started to bend the wire. Then now you see it went to end. It's asking for the end direction, so I'm going to select the axis there, and I'm going to flip that direction too. You want both directions going away from where your start point is. I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to hit done return, and I'm going to hit OK. And this is what my curve looks like. This is what my wire is going to look like. Okay, now what I'm going to do is go to insert. I'm going to go to swept blend, make a solid, and I'm going to select this curve we created as our reference, and I'm going to hit section. I'm going to select my point, hit sketch, and I'm actually just going to use the diameter of this circle as a reference so I can just snap to it, so if the gauge changes, the wire automatically updates. So I'm going to hit insert again to finish this swept blend. And like I said before, the diameter of the wire is 1.8. And there you go. There's your first wire. Let me save this. And what you have to do is you have to repeat that for every single one. You have to create a curve and connect the points just like we did, and then use the tangency to give the curve shape. Now let me change the color of this here. Now say you want to, now let's go back to the assembly, our main assembly here. so you can see what it looks like. Let me get rid of all this, all these points and things. Okay, so you can see how this transitions now down from the connector down to your wire bundle where you're starting. So what you can do, if you say you want to change the way this radius looks, what we're going to do is we're going to activate our wire bundle. We're going to go down to the swept blend that we just created, or I'm sorry, we're going to go to the curve ID. And if you go to edit definition on the curve that you created, you'll see an option in the menu manager called tweak. If you double click that, you'll notice that handles come up right here and right here. And if you drag those handles, look what happens to the wire. So you can shape your wires to look however you want them to look. So if you wanted them to come, in more, you just keep dragging these handles until you get it to where you're happy. Now that's why we selected, when we were making our datum curve, that's why we selected our axes. The axis for the beginning and the end. Because what that does is it allows us to drag this spline along those axes so we can change the way our curve looks. So if I hit OK, let me activate the assembly here, you can see that the wire updates automatically. Now you're probably saying, well, that's cool, but what if the height of this boss changes? Well, that's not a problem, because you copied the surface that the part it's referencing in your part file, your wire bundle. It's referencing the part that's going to move. So if I take this block and I activate it, and I double click on this boss here, and let's just say I make it 35, and I hit regenerate. When I go back into the assembly and I hit regenerate, the wire bundle, because it's referencing these surfaces and the points are referencing these surfaces, this curve will automatically move whenever this mating part moves. So this is the advantage to kind of figuring out how you want to make it somewhat robust when you're doing your wire harness, because you're going to have a lot of changes just because of designs. So what I always start with is I make my P-clips first, and then I make my bundle from there, and then from there I connect to wherever I have to go. If this wall was really tall right here, maybe just ridiculously tall, I would have to add a P-clip on this face, so then I would have another bundle right there. So for every face you're going to have for every place you're going to have a bend, you need a bundle with a straightaway. Because no wire, you can have a wire that will bend tangent to tangent, but it has a little piece of straight on it. So this method here is the way I found will produce the most realistic looking wire bundles. So let me just bring this back up to, say, 65 or 60. So what you guys can do for your lesson is you can go in, download this part from my Dropbox, and I will leave the rest of these blank on each side so you can practice putting them in there. And play with the tweak, play with the tweak of the curve when you create that curve. you can make it look any way you want. I mean, it's totally up to you, as long as the wires aren't touching. And I'll do one of these corner ones before we end this as well. So I'm going to open the wire bundle. I'm going to turn my points back on and my axes, and we're going to do this one more time. So you're going to select datum curve on the right. You want through points, and you're going to select done. Make sure it's set to spline, then single point, and then select your first point, select your second point just by left clicking, and you'll see it draws that nice straight line. You're going to go to done, then double click tangency and select the axis that runs through that point. Hit OK, because your arrow's going, you want it to go away from where your start point is. So you're going to hit OK. Now it's asking for the end axis, the end datum axis, so you're going to have to flip that one so it's going away. Goes the same direction your first one does, away from where you start. So you hit OK, hit done, and OK out of that, and there is your guide curve. So you can edit your guide curve now. What you can do is go to Edit Definition, and you can tweak. I don't particularly like to tweak the curve before I actually put my wire on there, because I can't really get a good feel for how the wire looks. I mean, it's just a line to me. So I'm going to do Insert, Swept Blend. Under Reference, I'm going to select that curve. Then I'm going to go to Sections. Make sure this is on solid. Make a sketch. I'm going to grab the reference of that diameter. I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other end. Insert, sketch. And hit OK. And there's my wire with its bend in it. So if I edit the curve ID, go to Edit Definition, or right click on Curve ID 700. I go to Edit Definition, double click on Tweak, and just grab the handles and move the wire, bend it to, look how I want it to look. And when I'm happy with it, I just hit the green check mark, hit OK, and there's my wire. Now, there is a quick way to keep making tubes or wires to go faster. I'm going to show you that just before we end this right here. So, obviously you don't want to have to do a swept blend for every single tube, and it's not necessary. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do. You still have to create a curve, so you're going to go through points, done. Make sure it's set to spline, single point. Okay, so we're going to do this one. I'm going to hit done. Select my tangency. It's going the right way, so I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to flip this one. Hit OK. Now you can see that's what it comes in looking like standard. So you can obviously you can adjust this one to match the one below. Obviously the best wire bundles look kind of not perfect because they're never going to be perfect. So having one of these wires and being able to like free grab them is actually the fun part. So what I'm going to do now is I'm basically going to copy that swept blend because we're using the same diameter. So we're going to use a copy and paste method. So this makes doing the rest of your part of your wire bundles for these really easy once you create your curve. So I'm going to highlight the swept blend. I'm going to go to Edit, Copy. Then I'm going to go to Edit, Paste Special, and I'm going to unclick Dependent Copy and select my guide curve and hit OK. And what it does is it copies and pastes that wire, the swept blend, right on top of your other wire. So you can see that I have a couple that they're running into each other. So what I do is, when you go into your curve ID and you edit the definition, you can go to Tweak, and you can lift the wire up and move it and drag it so that they're not interfering. See how that works? So you can just keep lifting them and moving them, and it will actually allow you to move them and bend them around the whole part. So I'm going to try and drag it so that's somewhat close to the one that's on the bottom. So you can see that my wires, they're running right along each other, and they're you can change, see how one is a little bit offset from the other. So you're playing with the curves, allow you to now go in and edit them and make them look like real free bending wires. And that's the point that you're trying to come across, but also make it look plausible like real life. So if you save this and you go back to your main wire harness, turn off our points and axes, you can start to see that this is starting to take shape. So what I want you guys to do is finish this wire bundle and maybe send me a video back or send me a picture of it all done. And you can, now remember, you can copy this when you're doing each side. So when you start doing this side here on the right again, if you were going to finish it, you can still use copy and paste on this section right here, because the shape is going to be somewhat similar. So you're just going to create your guide curves and then copy paste the first swept blend on all the remaining 4 wires that you need. And I hope I wasn't confusing you guys too much. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And if you need more explanation on this tutorial, please let me know. It is a lot to absorb. It's more time consuming than complicated. So I would suggest probably watching the important parts over, where I'm creating the curve, where you're copying geometry, where you're creating your center lines so you can tweak your wires. Those are the things that are really important when you're doing this. It's the setup of it that takes the time. And I don't have pro cabling, so when I have to make it look good, this is the way I do it. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. As usual, feel free to comment and rate below. Thanks. Bye.